Hello everyone, I am Yugendra and today we'll be talking about how to visualize data with Python. You all would have seen the Python programming language being used for web development, software development, machine learning, and data analysis. Apart from the most common data visualization tools such as Excel, Tableau, and Power BI, Python also can be used for data visualization. This can be done with the help of libraries such as Matplotlib and seaborn, which we'll be discussing today. Matplotlib is an open source alternative to MATLAB, which is used as a data visualization and a graphical plotting tool in Python. Seaborn is built on top of Matplotlib, which is mainly used for data visualization and exploratory data analysis. If you want to know more about exploratory data analysis using Python, there are videos for which I'll be providing the links in the description box down below. And for more such videos on any new technology, do not forget to hit that like button, and it would mean a lot if you could subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, so now we'll go ahead with the demo. Let us start with the Matplotlib first, and then we'll move on to seaborn. So to import any library in Python, we use the import statement, that is import. And since now we have to import the Matplotlib library, we'll import that Matplotlib. And now since we want to plot the values, there's this library called pyplot, which is plotting by Python. So dot pyplot as PLT. So PLT, what it is it's an alias, so that whenever you want to access this particular library, you won't have to type this whole thing again and again. So you just have to access it using PLT dot the function. And now let us execute this. So that is done. Now let us move ahead with the plotting using Matplotlib. So first let us start plotting a line plot using Matplotlib. So let us give a heading as line plot. Okay, to plot any line, we need coordinates. So we'll initialize those coordinates using the x and y values. So let's take x1 equal to some values. So let's say, 1, 2, 3. It'll be in a list 1, 2, and 3. And now y1 will be, let's say, 1, 4, 6, 1, 4, 6, and then x2. We'll be plotting two lines over here. So there's x1, y1 and x2, y2. So now x2 will be, let's give the value as 1, 4, 5, and 7. 1, 4, 5, and 7. Or let's just take this as 4.5 and let's see what happens. And now y2 will be, let's say 6, 7, 4. Okay, so these are the coordinates. So x1, y1 and x2, y2. Now let us execute these. So to plot a line using Matplotlib, we use plt dot plot and the coordinates. So first we'll be plotting the line with x1 and y1. So x will be x1 and y will be y1. And now if you want to give the labels to the coordinates or the line, you can do that as well. So that can be done using a label attribute. Label equals, let's say line 1. And then now this is the first line, and let us execute this. So here we have a line. So it starts with 1, 1, and the limit in the y-axis it's 6, and the limit in the x-axis it's 3. So now let us plot the second line as well. So that's plt.plot x2, y2, x2 and y2. Now the label will be line 2 now. So now if you execute this, so now we have two lines. So this is the x1, y1 line, and this is the x2, y2 line. And now you can see that the limit in the y-axis has increased to 7, whereas the limit in the x-axis has increased to 7 as well. Now this plot doesn't have any, description. Like say there's no line title, there's no x-axis title, that is this, and there's no y-axis title. So we can do that as well using the PLT function or PLT library. So that can be done using. So now let's say if you want to give the title to this chart or a line plot. So that can be done using the plt.title function, and title should be or can be plotting two sample lines. Plotting two sample lines. So now that's the title. And now let's say if you want to have a grid in this chart or a plot. So a grid is a combination of x and y. So each coordinate will be one square box that can be shown as below. So that will be plt.grid. And so grid function accepts a value of true or false. So when it is true, the grid will be there. So when it is false, the grid won't be there. So now since we want the grid to be visible, let's put it as true. And then if you want to give a label to the x and the y axis, that can be done using the function x label and the y label respectively. So now to give the label for the x axis, it will be x label. And since we have x axis and y axis, so let's just put it that way. So that will be x axis. And for the y label, it will be y axis. And so here you can see that the limits is predefined already. So it will take the highest value which is given in the coordinates as the limit. We can set the limits by ourselves. So that can be done using the function called xlim and the ylim. So that is plt.xlim. And let's say the xlim, we started from 0 and ended at let's say 5 maybe, or let's take it as 7 itself. Yeah, so xlim, let's take it as 10. And then ylim also, let's take it as 10. As 0, 10. So that is that. And now let's plot these values again. So you can just copy paste it from here. And you can paste it over here. It will be the same. And then let's say if you want to give a legend. A legend is something. So here we have two colors. So there's line 1 and line 2. To describe those in the plot, we can use something called as a legend. So that will describe both the lines. So let's say the line 1 is blue in color. So here there'll be, it'll display line 1 and the line color as well. So for line 2, it will be line 2, and since it's orange, there'll be an orange line. So that can be done using the plt.legend function. This has no attributes. And now to show the plot, we just use the function called show function. So let's use that now. And now let us execute this. So now you can see that the grid is available and the chart title is plotting two sample lines. So that's TWO. Now let us execute this again. Yeah. So the chart title is plotting two sample lines and the grid is available. So the grid, it works. And the X label is X axis, like you can see over here. And the Y label is Y axis. And the limit is 0, 10. So, and here also it's 0, 10. And the plot is, it's the same like above. And legend, like I said, so the line 1 is blue in color, so it describes that. And line 2, it's orange in color, so it describes that as well. So yeah, this is how you plot a line plot using the Matplotlib library. And now let us move on to the scatter plot. So here it is, give the heading as scatter plot using Matplotlib. Let's use that. Yep. So now let us move on to scatter plot. And since we've already imported the Matplotlib library over here, we don't have to do it again. And for this, we'll be using a data set. So to read a data set, we import the pandas library. So let us import Matplotlib first again to show you the complete code. So that's matplotlib dot pyplot as plt, and then now import pandas. So that's import pandas as pd. So here the alias for pandas is pd. And now let us import a data set. So we'll give it as data. To import a data set using pandas, we use the pd dot read that particular file extension function. So since we are reading a comma separated value file, so the function will be dot read csv, read underscore csv. And now you give the file name. So the file which we'll be using is let's see. So interview bit. This is my home directory. So any file which you are going to be access has to be in the home directory. If it's not in the home directory, you have to give the complete extension over here. So since it is in the home directory, we don't have to give the complete extension. We just have to give the file name. So for scatter plot, we'll be using salary data.csv. So let's see where that is. So here it is. Let us open this once. So here we have the experience in years and the salary for that particular value. So let's say if the experience is 1.1 year, the salary for that particular person is 3,93,430 rupees. And this is how the data set is. So I think there are around 15 values. So now let us plot the scatter plot using this data set. So that will be salary data.csv. Let us see the file name again. So it's salary space data. Okay, so now it is use this. So that's salary space data dot csv. Now if you want to display this, you can just print it, or let's go with data dot head. It'll display the top 5 values of the data set. So here, yeah, you can see that the top 5 values are 1.1, 1.3, 1.5, 2.0, 2.2, etc. So these are the top 5 values of the data set. And now let us plot the scatter plot using the plt function or the library. That's the matplotlib library. So now let us use the plt thing. Plt dot, so to plot a scatter plot using matplotlib, there's a function called scatter. It's that easy. So scatter, and then okay, so let us first take the coordinates or the values. So let us split them into x and y first. Let us split the data set into x and y. So that is x equal to data of, let's take the experience in the x-axis and the salary to be in the y-axis. So data of, copy this. Let's copy this and paste it here. So that will be in double quotes and this. And since in the y-axis we are plotting the salary, it will be data of salary. And now let us execute this first. And now if you want to plot x and y, you just have to mention those values. So that will be x comma y. You can execute this. So as you can see that there's a plot which has no labels, which has no chart title. So that can be given as well over here. That is plt.title. So let's copy all of this which is here and let's paste it over here. Since we don't need the grid over here, let us remove this, and the plt title will be scatter plot. Let's take that, and x label will be experience in years, and the y label will be salary in rupees. And after you do this, you have to show the pie plot. So that will be plt.show. Now if you click enter, shift enter, now you have the y label, the x label, and the chart title as well. We can use a scatter plot to differentiate between two ranges. Let's say if you want to differentiate between experience greater than 4 and the experience less than 4, we can do that as well. So that is done using you can first take the values as you can differentiate them. So let's take a value, let's say x1 to be, x less than 4. So x of x less than 4 or, greater than 4. So what this does is it will assign all the values of x where x is greater than 4. So it will assign all the experience in years of, that is x. So all the experience in years that is greater than 4. And now y1 will be y when x is greater than 4. So that's y1 equal to y when x is greater than 4. And now x2 will be x when x is less than 4. And y2 will be y when x is less than 4. So that will be x less than 4. So these are the coordinates which will be plotting in the scatter plot. And now let us plot the scatter plot. So that will be the plt.scatter function. We plot the x1 and y1. So x is x1 and y is y1. And now here you can use the label as experience, years of experience greater than 4. So that will be label equal to, it will be in double quotes, years of experience greater than 4. So this is the x1, y1 coordinates. And now let us move on to the x2, y2. Let us copy this. We just have to change x2, y2 and the years of experience to be less than 4. So here we change the sign to less than symbol, and then over here it's x2, y2. Okay, so that is done now. And now let us give the chart title or the plot title. So that will be plt.title as let's say difference in experience of years. So that will be difference in years of experience. And you can use the legend as well to differentiate between the years of experience greater than 4 and less than 4. So that will be plt.legend with no attributes. And then if you want to give the x label and the y label, you can do that as well. So let us copy all of this. It will be the same. And now if you execute these set of statements, you'll get this type of scatter plot. So here, as you can see, the years of experience greater than 4 are being given in blue color, and the years of experience less than 4 are in orange color. That is the legend, and this is the chart title, and the y label, which is salary in rupees, the x label, which is experience in years. And now let us move on to the pie chart. So let us give the heading as pie chart, and let us move to the pie chart now. So that will be pie chart. And now, so as above, we import the Matplotlib library. So that's import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. And since we want to read the data set as well, so that will be import pandas as pd. I'm just doing this because you can continue without doing this as well, since we are working on the same sheet or same file. I'm just doing this to explain it in a better way. And now to read the data, so that's data equal to pd.read csv. The file which we will be using now will be let's say let's take it as a top 5 most runs.csv, which contains the name of cricket players like Sachin, Sangakkara, Ponting, Jayawardene and Callis, and the total international runs that they've scored, which is 34,357 for Sachin and so on. So color, I've just given it over here to make the pie chart look aesthetically better or aesthetically pleasing. So for Sachin it will be blue in color, for Sangakkara it will be red in color, and so on. So this is the data set that we'll be using. So the file name, let us copy that is top 5 most runs. and let us go here, top 5 most runs .csv. Always remember to provide the extension for the file which you will be reading using pandas. And now let us split the dataset. So let us go to the dataset again. Here there are headings like name, total runs, and color. Let us use those variables only and store the names as a list. So that can be done using names equals data of names. And okay, let's see if it is names or name in the dataset. So it's just name. So let us give it as name itself. And now total underscore runs can be given as data of so it's total runs, total space runs. So give it in quotes. So that's total space runs. And now the color, so let's take it as colors equal to data of color, quotes with color. So that's quotes with color. Let's see if it's proper. So yeah, that's quotes with color. Let us give it as capital C. Now if you execute this, all these values will have each separate lists, and now you can go ahead, plot the pie chart using the plt extension or plt alias. plt.plot pie, that's just pie of the value which we'll be plotting is, since we'll be plotting against the runs, so that will be the attribute, the first attribute. So that's total runs, and the labels are supposed to be names. Labels are nothing but the description, so that will be labels equals names. And now since we are using colors as well, so that will be color equals colors, or colors equals colors. So that's the same thing. To make it not confusing, let's just take it as color itself and keep it color over here. Let us execute this now. So as you can see, the labels are given over here, and since for Sachin it's blue in color, so that is given over here, and for Sangakkara it's red, and for Ponting it's yellow, and for Jayavardhana it's brown, and for Kalis it's green. And now you can use attributes to display the percentage of the pie chart which a particular person has scored. So let's say a pie chart is 100%, and how much percentage of runs did Sachin score out of 100. So that can be done using giving an attribute called auto PCT. So that is the attribute which we'll be using now. So here copy paste this, and you just have to include the attribute called auto PCT. So that is auto PCT equals since we want the percentage, we can take it as 1.1 and floating percentage. So what this is like a 0.1 decimal precision. So if you want more than 1% also, you can do that by using 1.2 or something. And now let us execute this and see what the pie chart is. So I forgot that there will be 2 quotes over here, 2 percentage symbols. So that's about it. Now as you can see, the auto PCT, there's another percentage symbol over here. This is accessing the percentage value using the pi function. So now let us execute this and see. Yeah, now we can see that the percentage of runs which Sachin scored is 24.3, and the rest is Sangakkara is 19.8, and Ponting it's 19.4, and so on. So this is how you display the percentage using the auto PCT attribute in the pi function, plt.pi function. And now let us move on to bar plot using Matplotlib. So that will be bar plot. So again we'll have to do the mandatory importing thing. So let us copy the until here, and for bar chart I think we'll be using another dataset, or you can use the same dataset as well. So let us use the same dataset. So that will be pd.read csv, the top 5 most runs .csv. And now let us take the names as, data of names, data of name, I believe. Yeah, name, it's just name. And now total runs. Now in bar chart, what we'll be doing is we'll be plotting the names against the total runs. So the names will be on the x-axis and the total runs will be on the y-axis. So that will be data of total runs. So that's total space runs. So that is done. And now let us plot the chart using plt.bar. So the function which is used to plot a bar plot in Matplotlib or Python is, bar function. So we'll plot names against the total runs. So names is X and the total runs is Y, and color, let's just take it as normal blue, and the blue must be in quotes. So that's blue. And let's say if you want to, give a particular width to the line or the bar, that can be done as well. So the width, using the width attribute, so that is, let's just take it as 0.6 or something. Let's see how this works. And now let us give the X label and Y label and everything. First itself, plt.x label will be player names, so that's player names, and plt.y label will be total run scored, and the plt.title will be top 5 most international runs scored or something like that. So that will be plt.title top 5 total international runs scored. So top 5 total international runs scored. And now let us show the bar plot. So that's plt.show. So as you can see over here, we have the chart title, the Y label, the X label, and the total runs on the Y axis, and the player name on the X axis. So as you can see over here, Sachin scored around 34,357 runs or something. So which is plotted, perfectly over here. Since it's top 5, you can see that the values decrease as and when you go down. So that is how you, plot a bar chart using Matplotlib library. And now let us move on to the last part in the Matplotlib library. So that's the histogram. So let us give the heading as histogram. So that will be histogram plot. So histogram is nothing but, let's say if you take a range, histogram plots the number of occurrences in that particular range. So let's say the range is around 5 to 10, and you have values say 6, 7, 8, which all come under 5 to 10. So the histogram plots the value 3 in the graph. So since only 3 of them are occurring in the range 5 to 10, which is 6, 7, 8, there are 3 values which are occurring in the range 5 to 10. So histogram, what it does is it plots the count to be 3 in the plot. So let us show that using the dataset. We'll copy this one. For this plot, we'll be using another dataset called the employee sales data. I'll show you how it looks like. Let us go to our directory. So the employee sales data is, where is it? So yeah, we'll be using the Excel file. So the employee sales data has the employee name, the region that they're working out of, the items that they're selling, the quantity or the number of items that they've sold, the rate of each item, and the total amount. The total amount is nothing but the quantity into the rate. So now let's say if you want to plot a histogram on the quantity column. So that you can do using the plt.hist function. So now let us take this column to be, over here. So the file will be employee sales data.csv. So this is the file that we'll be using. And since we are plotting the histogram against the quantity column, we'll take that data over here. So that is data that is done. So that will be quantity equals data of quantity. Let us execute this now. Okay, I think the file name is different. So it is employee sales data. So, okay, here the problem is, since we are accessing or reading the Excel file, the function will be dot read underscore Excel. Like I said earlier, the read function will be the file extension function. So the extension of Excel is dot .xlsx. So now if you execute this, I think we'll get the correct thing. And now to plot the histogram, that will be plt.hist function. Since we want to plot the histogram against quantity, so that's quantity in the x, and bins is like the range which we want to plot against. So the range which we want to plot against is, let's say, we'll take it in increments of 4. So that's 0, 4, 8, 12 and 16 and finally 20. I've taken this range because I think the maximum number of items or the quantity is less than 20. So that's the reason I've taken this. And now let us execute this function as well. So as you can see over here, so the number of items which are there is, the number of bins which are there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And over here, you can see that the number of items which are present in, the range 0 to 5 are close to 2 and so on. So this is how the histogram plot, is plotted. And I think here we'll have to remove this because this is a buffer column like I was using it earlier. So let's just remove this, and now let us save this and execute this again. Let's execute this first and then execute this. So I think now this is the right histogram. You can remove 16 and 20 because there are no values after 10, I believe, because the total number of items over here, the maximum number of items is 10. So I think you can remove these two. So now it will be the same thing, but the width of the histogram now has increased. So this is how you plot a histogram in Matplotlib. And now let us move on to the seaborn library. So until now, whatever we have discussed is Matplotlib. Let us now move on to the seaborn library. Seaborn library is nothing but, it's built on top of Matplotlib, but it is used to, used for better data visualization. So it is used to display, statistical data or categorical data using seaborn. So now let us move on to seaborn. So that's data visualization using seaborn. Heading, data visualization using seaborn. So let us start with the first thing. So to import a seaborn library in Python, we use import statement like earlier, which we used for Matplotlib. So that's seaborn as SNS. So the alias which we will be using for seaborn is SNS. So anytime you want to access the seaborn library, we just use the SNS dot the function name. And let us import Matplotlib as well, since we'll be using them together. Dot pyplot as plt. Let us execute this, and you don't have to download them separately because in Jupyter Notebook it is already installed for you. And now let us go ahead with the line plot. Let us give the heading as line plot so that you can differentiate between all of them. Line plot. And now to plot a line in seaborn, you can use the sns.lineplot function. But before that, let us import the dataset. So that's import pandas as pd. And for this plot, we'll be using the salary data.csv dataset. So the data which we'll be using is pd.readcsv salary space data, s should be in caps, .csv. So I think that is the file that we'll be using. And now let us take the x coordinates to be data of, since we've used the data set earlier, so the x axis will contain experience in years, and the y axis will contain salary, data of salary. So that is done. And now let us go ahead and plot the line plot using the sns.lineplot function. sns.lineplot, and the attributes over here should be x and y. So in the x attribute, we'll give the experience in years within double quotes, and in the y attribute, we'll give the salary. So that's salary in double quotes. And the data that we'll be using is data, so that you can give data equals data. And now let us go ahead and execute this. As you can see that we got a line plot with the salary and the experience. So this is how a line plot will look like. So this is how a line plot will look like in seaborn. And now let us move ahead with the scatter plot. So, and now since we've already gone through everything in Matplotlib, using seaborn will be easier for you. So it will take less time when compared to Matplotlib while you're using seaborn. So let us go ahead with the scatter plot. So we'll use scatter plot for the same data set. I don't think you'll have to execute this again. So let us just use the scatter plot function, that's sns.scatter plot. So sns.scatter plot, and the same thing would be here. So that's x equals experience in years and y equals salary and data is data. So you can just copy paste the whole thing over here, and now just execute this statement. As you can see, we already have the scattered plots over here. So the x-axis will contain experience in years and the y-axis will contain salary. So this is how you plot a scatter plot using the seaborn library, using the scatter plot function, sns.scatterplot. And now we can move ahead with the next type of visualization, that's a bar graph. So that's bar graph or a bar plot. For this, we'll be using the dataset which we used earlier for histogram. So that will be employee sales data.xlsx. It's an Excel spreadsheet or a worksheet. And now let us, get this. So let us import these. And now since we'll have to import the dataset as well, so we'll have to import pandas. So after importing pandas, we'll have to get the data. So that's data equals pd.read excel underscore excel. Excel is excel, and then the file name. So that's employee sales data dot xlsx. That's the extension of Excel. So now that we've imported the file, let us plot the bar graph. But before that, let us take the quantity into a separate variable or a list. So that's quantity equals data of quantity, like earlier. So now that we have done with the importing part, let us get the bar graph. So that will be sns.countplot of what do you want to plot against. So we want to plot it against quantity. So that will be the thing that we'll have to mention over here. So that's quantity. Now if you execute this statement, we get a warning, so you don't have to worry about that. So this is how bar graph will look like in seaborn. It'll automatically assign the colors for you, different colors for different bars. So the graph which we've plotted here is, so for these values, so the number of items which are 3, how many occurrences are there in this data set. So over here you can see that the values are there. So the maximum value I think is 10, you can get the count of 10. So the number of occurrences of 10 in this particular column. So that can be done by using the formula count if the range that we'll be selecting is whole column excluding the header, so that's quantity, the whole column excluding quantity. And after that, the criteria is, since we want to get the count of or the number of occurrences of the value 10, we just give that and press enter. So as you can see, the number of times the value 10 has occurred in this column is 19 times. Let us see if that is right or wrong over here. So as you can see over here, the number of times the value 10 has occurred in that particular column is, I think, 19 itself. So here the scale is in the increments of 2.5. So as you can see over here, it is 19 itself. So this is how, a bar graph is plotted in Python using seaborn. And now let us move on to the histogram plot using seaborn. So that will be, let us give the heading again. So that's histogram plot. And now in seaborn, the function which we'll be using for histogram is sns.histplot. And the data which we'll be using is data. So we have to give the attribute value for x. So what do you want to plot the histogram against? So we'll be plotting it against the quantity. So let us give it as x equals quantity. So that will be quantity. And now when we execute this, we'll get the histogram plot. So the difference between this histogram and this bar is that in the x-axis, there is no value called 4, because bar graph, what it takes is, it takes the values which are only present in the Excel sheet. But histogram, what it does is, it takes the range of the Excel sheet. So the number of items which are present in the Excel sheet ranges from 3 to 10. So it also includes the range 4 as well. So that is the difference between the histogram plot and the bar plot. So in bar plot, there's no value called 4 because it takes only the values which are present in the Excel sheet. Whereas histogram, it takes the range as well.
That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you're clear with how we can visualize data with Python. We have mainly looked at the two libraries which are the most commonly used for data visualization in Python. We looked at how we can plot various charts and graphs using those libraries. If you guys liked this video, make sure you hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.